Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to be adding our cards into the UI based on how many save games we've got in our index. So here you can see there are 5 cards in the UI, and in our save game folder there's actually 6. This is because one has been added after we displayed the UI, but basically it is using the number of save games here to add things to the UI. I can show you this by hitting play one more time. You see there's one more save game, and if I go to the save game folder, then there will be 7 save games in there because one is created when we start and everything is displayed before that. So let's dive in and see how we can create that UI functionality. So as it stands, we are doing all of our adding the paintings in Begin Play, and actually we're not adding paintings at all, we're just adding a single card. It doesn't reflect how many paintings we have got on disk, for example, in this save game folder. It just adds 1. So what we're going to be doing by the end of this lecture is to be able to get as many paintings on the painting list as we have save games here, obviously within the limit of the number of slots that we've got available. So the way we are going to do this is, first of all, to change the interface to add painting. Here we're just adding one painting at a time, but we should probably say where that painting resides, which index essentially. So if we go and find the interface in the paintinggrid.h, then I'm going to go ahead and change it to include an index, an int32 index. I'm going to call it the index. Maybe I'll call it the painting index if we want to be a bit more explicit. And I'm going to make sure that is also over in the C++. And then what we're going to have to do is change how we're currently calling it. At the moment, we're calling it in Begin Play, we're just adding things in. Do we actually even want to do that? Probably not. I'm just going to go ahead and remove all that code from Begin Play, so it won't complain. It should hopefully be able to compile just fine. Yep, and sure enough, it has. So what if we now go over to the painting grid CPP, and what can we do with this painting index? Well, obviously what we can do is, rather than get the 0 child of the painting grid, we can now get that painting index child of the painting grid. So this add painting is going to work on the basis of 0 to 8 basically, so that it goes through all 9 slots that we've got in that grid. So that should be helpful. It's a start, and that's what we want to achieve. Now, what I would like you to do is to go ahead, and at the moment we've got some code that lists out all of our paintings. I'd like you to bring that over to our painting picker so that in Begin Play we list out all those paintings and add a painting for each, and hopefully each one in a separate slot, so that we end up with as many painting cards as there are save game slots. Obviously they're not linked, obviously there's no way of differentiating between them, seeing a thumbnail or seeing the name of the painting, but it's the start of listing out that stuff. So that's going to be your challenge. So let's take a look at your challenge definition. To add cards for the paintings, iterate over all the paintings in the index. Add a card for each of them. Ensure they end up in different slots. By this I mean that we're not adding all the cards into the same slot and you won't be able to see them in the UI. And do they fill out in the right order? By that I mean, do you get first the top left, then the next one along, then the next one along, and so on. That's how I expect them to come across, from left to right, from top to bottom. But is that the order they come out in? And if not, how could you correct for that? Pause the video and have a go. Okay, welcome back. So let's give this a stab. First of all, I want to add as many paintings as there are into our UI. So I'm going to do this again in Begin Play, and we've actually written some code for this already. If we go to saving, and then I think it's in the paintersavegame.cpp, then where we have, let's see, somewhere there's a for loop. Yep, in save, we've got this debug for loop, which I'm going to cut out because we don't want that code anymore. And now instead of logging, I'm going to paste it into Begin Play, where we're going to iterate over the save games in the index, and I'm going to have to include some headers from the saving system. So I'm going to do a hash include of the saving / painter save game index.h, like so, and that should correct our error that we were seeing there. So now we're loading the index, getting its slots. It's actually still complaining. And that might have something to do with the fact that I said savings rather than saving. So saving painter, save game index should be correct now, I think. Yep, and it's caught up. Great. So now we've got a slot name for every element of the index. And what we want to do is go ahead and add to our painting grid. So we're going to have to first do what we were doing before. So having deleted that code, let's just go and refresh our memories by looking in source tree. What did I delete? The painting picker CPP. I have deleted where we were casting from getting the user widget object to a uPainting grid. So we still want to do that bit. In fact, I just deleted it, so I can probably just copy it back in like so. So we're going to have the painting grid widget in begin play. And then what we're going to do with the painting grid widget is obviously we're going to add paintings to it. And we're going to have an index, which we currently don't have. So I'm going to create one outside the for loop in 32 index. And it's going to start off at index 0. And we're going to add the first painting at index 0. Then subsequently, we're going to increment the index, so ++ index within the for loop. So the next one will add to 1, the next one to 2, etc., until we have filled up everything. And I think if you add in painting 9, what's going to happen? Let's go and read through the code. If I had 9 as the painting index, then it would get down to get child at index 9, which would probably return null. The cast would then continue the null. We'd get card container as null, so we would just return out of here, no harm done. Okay, so that seems to work fine. If we overflow, eventually we'll want pagination so we can display more than 9 paintings, but we're not quite there yet. So let's compile that and see what happens. Okay, that has compiled. Let's go over to Unreal. Let's hit play. Has it added in any paintings? Nope, doesn't look like it. But if we go and have a look at the output log, there was some errors it was telling me about. That create widget is called with a null class. So it looks like something has been reset. Let's go to our UI painting picker in the blueprints, in the content folder, and go to the, not the painting picker, but the WBP painting grid. And in here, go to the graph, and we want to change our painting grid default settings to basically try and spawn a painting grid card. Compile, save that. Save the menu, go ahead and play. And there we go. Sure enough, we have got 4 cards. And in our save folder, we have got, oh, actually, we have got 5 saves. Let's just check. That's probably because we got one more save after we had just started the game. So that's what's going on there. That's why we've got one more. When we opened the game, there were 4, but then one got created in begin play as well by the pawn. Okay, so that's working more or less, but the order is wrong at the moment. And the way we can correct this is by going into the WBP painting grid again and have a look at the order of our size boxes. The first size box there is the top left, sure. The second one is the one underneath it, and so on. So we've got slightly an order problem. What we want is to have a more reasonable order. So we can check this by actually renaming the size boxes. So this is going to be size box number 1. I'll click on the one to the right of it and rename that to size box 2, basically. And you can see this is obviously already out of order. And the one to the right of that, I'm going to rename to 3. And then what we can do is we can just keep them in order as we go along, so that basically the order reflected as children of the painting grid is the order we'd like them to populate in. So then we're going to go for, I'm just going to speed up this point of the video. So as you can see here, all I'm doing is what I was already doing, just looking at the order in the UI, giving them a sequential number based on that order, and then as I'm going along, I'm kind of reordering these things so that their children are all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at the end of it. So with that done, if we've compiled it and saved, we can go over and hit play. And hopefully, there we go, the order in which they have been added, all 5 of them are showing up now. There will be a 6th one just created, but 5 are showing up because that's what was available at Begin Play, and they have been added in the order from left to right, top to bottom. So pats on the back, we've been able to add stuff into the UI. Obviously, we're not out of the woods yet. We do actually want to put some stuff into this UI and make it functional, so when we click on it, it loads up the game. But we'll tackle that in the upcoming lectures. So I'll see you there.